And welcome everyone to the Eden Prairie Chamber's State of the City program. We're very pleased to be hosting this again this year. I know it's slightly different than what we've done in the past, but bear with us as we go through our presentations. We will try and take questions. So as you have questions, we will have the chat feature available and we'll try and get those at the very end. So if you do have some questions as we go along, please feel free to jump in and utilize the chat feature. I do want to thank our sponsors today. They are Excel Energy and Wings Financial Credit Union, strong supporters of this program and our community. Jumping into things today, we're always pleased to host this program because the Chamber and the business community always see our city government and our school district as partners in creating this great community that we all live, work, and play in Eden Prairie. From the Chamber side of things, our mission is leaders for community prosperity and advocates for business. And then our vision, and I'm not going to read it directly, but three things I'm really going to touch on as part of the Chamber's presentation is how we enhance our members' business success through leadership, advocacy, and growth opportunities. The Chamber overview. Chamber has over 300 business members representing over 34,000 area employees. We have a number of committees and task forces that volunteers serve on. And some of the key areas that our businesses are engaged and involved with are our programs and networking opportunities, public policy, which includes providing that voice for our area businesses, workforce initiatives, and numerous other services that we'll talk a little bit about as well. We have a 14-member board of directors, and they are listed on this slide. They represent a wide variety of businesses, much like our community as well, from some of our largest employers down to sole proprietors and many businesses in between. So 2020, just an odd year, obviously. The Chamber did host over 70 different programs for our members, and that started almost a year ago with State of the City in January. Much different program, obviously doing it in person, but other programs that were key to the success of our organization. We had numerous program updates from Congressman Phillips. As you can tell, he spearheaded a number of PPP efforts at the national level for us. And it was great to have him engaged, not only with programs that our members could talk to him directly with, but also on an ongoing basis throughout the year. We also had what we called Power Hour, and that was a new program last year hosted at area restaurants, which obviously had to take a hiatus. We did some of those virtually and looking forward to bringing those back this year. One of our popular programs we were able to get in before COVID hit, and that's our Women's Progressive Luncheon. We did hold our job fair in March at the school district and had over 43 businesses participate in that to help businesses hire students for the summer and beyond. Twin Cities Young Professionals Summit is a program that the Chamber started, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we went virtual, which was great because we had even more participation from a wide group of young professionals from across the Twin Cities. And then on top of that, we had a number of updates from state and county officials. We held our transportation summits, held candidate forums with the election for state office, and then continued to provide some workforce opportunities and connections for our students. So COVID-19's impact, obviously a major impact to our businesses starting in March with the governor's executive order and the disease starting to spread here. The Chamber switched to massive information sharing and communications on a daily basis as things really heated up. Our staff searched and we're getting updates all the way from the White House down to local governments, changes in regulations, updates on what was happening, opportunities for businesses to receive grants and funding, all those types of things. And our businesses needed that and continue to need that. We aren't doing those updates daily, but we're doing them as they are timely and needed. We also gathered business information so that we could share the direct impact of what was happening with our elected officials. I mentioned Congressman Phillips previously, and he was one that clearly worked hand in hand with our businesses on the impact of the PPP and the relief bills, wanting to know what more could be done to help our businesses. And so we also gathered information from those businesses. And one other direct impact was, depending on your business, you may have documents that need signing in person. And obviously with COVID-19's impact, that was not possible. We were first ones to share that with the Minnesota Deed Commissioner to get that changed. And there were numerous other examples, but that's a good one of how quickly things changed and how things needed to adapt and the role that the chamber played. And then finally, and we have some photos of this, the chamber distributed 100,000 face masks to our local businesses free of charge. One thing, a platform that probably few of us heard of was Zoom, and we adapted very quickly, like most businesses did, in providing opportunities for our local businesses. I mentioned being able to provide our programs, our Twin Cities Young Professionals Summit. We actually add opportunities in terms of seminars and speakers. We touched on diversity and inclusion as one of those. We provided transportation series to our members, both from travel with airports, roadways, in Southwest LRT. And so some of the keys to success for the chamber were to really lead, and in this case, enhance member success through that leadership. Early on, back in March and April, the chamber went out and visited our businesses, many who were closed as part of the executive order. We did video productions of what those businesses were going to look like and the safety measures they were taking. So as they reopened, the idea was to really be able to provide a video content of what the customers would expect going back to those businesses. It also helped us to share the story with our elected officials of what businesses have already done and put in place so that they could open safely. And then we also spearheaded a couple of videos to highlight Shields coming to Eden Prairie. And very pleased, 250,000 plus square foot retail store, a big draw for our community. And then helping our businesses. This photo is highlighting the 100,000 face masks that the chamber helped distribute. And I really want to thank Junk King. They stepped up and provided the transportation service to get over 2 pallets of face masks to our offices. We also had a couple of key volunteers that really stepped up. Jana Lee Lowenstein with Sudeth Relocation and Jen Getz with Styled for Bliss went out and helped us distribute these to different businesses that needed these free face masks. We also stepped up our local promotions. These are a couple samples of the things we did. It was great to see local residents doing the same types of things, stepping up, supporting our local businesses, sharing their stories of going out, going to restaurants, retailers, all those types of things to really focus on helping our businesses stay in business and hopefully grow and be successful in the future. This led to additional executive orders, as everybody's aware of, towards the end of 2020. And when the governor did not open up restaurants when the first executive order ended in December, we approached the city and the mayor. Mayor Case took our lead on this and worked with city staff to put together a proclamation from the city of Eden Prairie. We had anticipated that the governor would open up restaurants again on January 11th, and we did a business push for that week. And it was great to see the city step up, help in this area. We worked with the high school and had a couple of different interns working on projects for us. In this case, we had 2 just fun-loving guys that did a great job. Both Peter and Nick went out, did some photo shoots at area restaurants, highlighted key menu items, and just had a lot of fun with this. And these types of videos and our promotions, some of these videos we saw over 1,000 views. The reach over 10,000 in some cases. So really an opportunity for us to solidify and help our businesses be successful getting through the pandemic. I talked a little bit about our advocacy, and as an advocate for business, really we want to grow the influence of the business community, and that's through proactive advocacy and really thoughtful public policy initiatives. Many of our businesses have reached out trying to understand what is going on through the pandemic, the rules, the regulations, everything that's impacting them. On top of that, sharing with us the issues of some of these executive orders. And we've been able to have success sharing that with our elected officials. Now, going into 2021, there's some key issues that we want to highlight. Our chamber is one of many chambers, part of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce Federation. Some of the key top issues obviously are related to COVID-19, and some key things that have yet to be done, really some tax reforms, lawsuit liability protections for business, enhanced connectivity and broadband as more and more of our businesses and their employees are working from home. This is a critical way for them to stay connected and get work done and continue to grow our economy. And then one I know that is near and dear to all of us, including the school district, that's really maximize the opportunity to bring students safely back for in-person instruction. On top of that, a couple of other key issues that we wanted to highlight is affordable healthcare and high quality is the standard that we typically will shoot for in trying to make sure that we have laws and regulations that hit those same objectives. Looking to benefit flexibility for employers, cost efficient energy that's sustainable. And then a big one that should get talked about more and more is the PPP loan tax forgiveness. We have over 100,000 Minnesota businesses that have received PPP loans. And currently, Minnesota has not adopted the conform to the federal tax law, which means this will be taxable for Minnesota businesses. Federal government's already taken that action, and we will work to have Minnesota follow that suit. So prospering, we want to ensure the future prosperity of our marketplace. And we talked a little bit about some of the marketing things we've done for our local businesses. Prosperity also includes major achievements like the Shield store opening. I highlighted this briefly before, but over 250,000 square feet of retail space, over 400 area employees, and it is a major draw for Eden Prairie. And truly, when you talk to the staff there, their store is typically number one since it's opening in the Shields family of stores. Prosperity also include Arctic Wolf announced moving its headquarters to Eden Prairie. And then we saw a number of new businesses opening. We highlighted some of those here with our ribbon cuttings and our ambassadors going out and visiting those businesses. We also had a fun idea of, this is a fundraiser opportunity for the chamber, but it was a great way to really solidify and highlight some of our local businesses. So we have Eden Prairieopoly. We want to obviously thank Shields, who are a partner with us on this, on sponsoring. And then also the Eden Prairie Historical Society. They were a great partner in providing some of these historic photos we used in the game and on the box cover. We understand the game is super popular. A lot of people are playing it already. We also have Shields and Patina locally that will be selling the games. So if you're in Shields or Patina, you may come across the Eden Prairieopoly board game. We do only have a limited number. We're about 50% sold out, even though we just got the games a few weeks ago. So if you are interested, check this out or contact the chamber. So what to expect in 2021? The chamber's looking at growth opportunities, both in increasing our membership ranks and also opportunities in programs and services we're offering. A continuation really of marketing directly businesses impacted by the pandemic and others. So you'll probably see a continuation of our video production and social media campaigns recognizing local businesses. We also plan on major events being in person. This would be dependent upon current regulations at the time, but we do plan to have the Eden Prairie Home Landscape and Garden Expo in person, tentative date of April 24th. Our golf tournament, we were able to get that in last year in person, and we will plan to have that again this year in person. The Twin Cities Young Professionals Summit, this is a great opportunity because we'll be doing more of those programs via Zoom and other web-based platforms. But we also are optimistic that we'll be able to bring the half-day conference back towards the end of 2021. We have a couple different corporations interested in hosting that event, and we'll get details published as soon as possible. And then, as always, we have a number of other seminars, networking events, and then connections with our public policy and elected officials so our businesses can have one-on-one conversations with them. And then workforce, continue and expand upon this. We have great partnership with the school district, our Future Leaders Program, student member program. We currently have 21 students participating in that. We have looked for different ways to connect business with opportunities for future workers. The job fair, we are still planning for March. It probably will not be in person, but we'll provide a new platform on businesses being able to promote their jobs directly to students, particularly for the summer employment season. And then additional internships, job shadows, and opportunities within our business community for students. And with that, it's a great segue to turn it over to our partner on education and workforce, the Eden Prairie Schools, and have Josh Swanson, the superintendent, come on up.
Thank you so much, Pat. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here today. And I so appreciate the partnership that we have with the chamber and with the city. You know, I'm honored to be here today with fellow leaders in the community. I have a great deal of respect for Rick and Pat as they serve the city and our business community. You know, I often share that Eden Prairie is truly a special place because of our partnership and support for each other. As a leader in the school district, I don't work alone. I have a wonderful board who is supportive and governs with vision in mind. I'd like to recognize several members who are with us today on the call or on the webinar. Board Chair Adam Seidel is with us, Vice Chair Beth Fletcher, Board Clerk Debjoti Duvidi, Treasurer Aaron Casper, Director Kim Ross, and Director CJ Strail. I also need to acknowledge cabinet members who are here today. You know, they're critical to guiding this work and supporting staff across the district. We have an absolutely amazing staff, and the things that I speak about today really could not happen without the care and commitment of our staff across the districts, from teachers to bus drivers to food service staff to our support staff that connect with families and kids. Dr. Stacy Stanley, Associate Superintendent's on. Mr. Jason Munzberger, Executive Director of Business Services on, Mr. Tom May, Executive Director of Human Resources, Dr. Michelle Ament, Senior Director of Personalized Learning, Dr. Christina Bemboom, Senior Director of Student Support Services, Dr. Sean Hoffman-Bram, Senior Director of Community Education, and Brett Johnson, Senior Director of Community Relations and Communications. You know, the care they have for staff, students, and families is evident to me on a daily basis as I get to work really closely with them. And their commitment to our mission and operating with our core values at the center of their decision-making is honestly inspiring to me. As we continuously focus on inspiring each student every day, this year has provided us with a lot of chances to learn and adapt and grow in partnership and to be creative. And we're going to share some of those things today. There we go. You know, beginning in March of 2020, the way we do things really changed quite rapidly and in pretty significant ways. You know, at the core, we know if students are going to learn and grow, they can't be hungry. And we couldn't do this alone. The Community Foundation partnered with us, Prop partnered with us, Sheridan Story partnered with us, and our food service staff and our transportation department stepped up, working along with our partners, and they delivered over 150,000 meals just last spring. In addition to providing meals this year on site, we've delivered an additional 172,000 meals, over 172,000 meals to families to ensure that our students are well cared for so that they can learn and grow and thrive. Speaking of care, we've been providing essential child care for our first responders, frontline workers, and essential workers since June. This has helped those caring for us in our community during COVID go to work and ensure that our community is safe and healthy. The support of our community has been amazing over a long period of time, and the commitment to supporting technology has positioned us really well to be able to help navigate the pandemic and continue to support student learning during this complex time. To support learning, over 12,000 devices are in use right now. There have been nearly 7 million Schoology learning sessions between teachers and students over this time period. And we know that it's absolutely critical that there is not a single student who's not connected. We want to make sure everybody's connected. So technology delivered about 80 hotspots to make sure that we could connect kids who didn't have that connectivity. And just this fall alone, we've ended up with over 60 million minutes of video conferencing that is taking place. It's quite amazing numbers. As we launched distance learning rapidly in March, we also knew that care and support would be absolutely critical. So our tech team stepped up right away, and they helped resolve over 2,000 issues in a couple of months. But not only were they working on resolving issues with our tech devices or other things that were happening where people were struggling, they actually used those partnerships inside of our community too, because several of our ISPs or internet service providers were actually having trouble last year as well. So they actually leveraged those partnerships and relationships for students at home who were maybe having connectivity at home to make sure we could make sure that every student was connected to their learning during that time. It truly was a team effort. But this is not just about operations and care. Our mission is to inspire each student to learn continuously. Instruction and commitment to kids' continuity of learning was evident in so much work that took place last spring on weekends, late at night, in the evenings, and inside of every meeting last spring. Our staff instantly turned on a dime to design distance learning opportunities that we hadn't necessarily delivered before for our students. We learned a lot in that process, but we did so while continuously keeping a constant focus on how do we keep connected with kids and connected to learning. Our elementary staff continue to meet with students one-on-one in small groups via video conferencing and partner with families in numerous different ways. Our secondary staff dove right in and focused on ensuring our students mastered standards and redesigned learning for that new environment. It was a tremendous lift in record time for our staff, and with a constant focus on learning, care, and connectedness as we all worked and learned together. That culminated in a graduation ceremony last summer. And while many districts opted for virtual graduations, the care of our staff and commitment to connection was realized in an in-person ceremony. And we absolutely had a beautiful day, as you can see in the photos here. And I will tell you, being a part of that, the smiles on our students' faces, our staff faces, and our families was absolutely amazing as we celebrated and truly shared accomplishments together that took place. This care and attention resulted in 87% of our Eden Prairie families rating distance learning last spring excellent or good. That's compared to 45% statewide. And so although last spring, it was a challenging time, our partnerships, community, and commitment to inspiring students was recognized by our parent. I also want to recognize how challenging this has been for everyone. But I think it shines a light on how amazing this community can be in supporting each other in those times. I want to personally thank our staff for their commitment and care, but so do our families and students. And so we're going to roll a short little video here.
Thank you, staff and teachers, for all your support. Miss you. Bye.
Hi,
I would like to thank the entire staff for leading me to the right path and teaching me new things every day. Bye-bye.
My name is Ephaniah. I am going to third grade, and what I love about Inn Lake is people are really kind to me, and it's a good school.
Hi, Oak Point staff. So I love the library and I'm thankful for the library because it's a maze to know what books are the teacher going to read to you. I'm thankful for Eden Lake because it has the best teachers, staff, and students.
Thank you, CMS, for everything you've done for me. And I'm thankful for having a school district that can provide teachers with enough so that they can do their job. And I'm thankful also for having teachers who are able to do that job very well.
Without partnerships at home, last spring could not have been as successful as it was. And I also want to acknowledge that it was not perfect. It was tough. And I want to personally just thank our families and caregivers and students. Your patience and grace and flexibility and resilience are amazing, and part of what makes Eden Prairie a great community as well. Let's shift gears to 2020-21. There was careful, intentional planning with great care to think about what we learned last spring, how to meet students' needs, and to design around learning and connections. There was thought and expertise and care to design healthy and safe environments for our students and staff during an incredibly complex and unprecedented time. Staff stepped up, and I cannot express enough gratitude for our bus drivers, teachers, food service staff, support staff, clerical staff, and administrators, all other district staff that have been involved. They have all stretched themselves in amazing ways, but maintained a focus on meeting the needs of each of our students in a caring and connected way as we launched an unprecedented school year. While many districts struggled to launch, we were able to begin the school year with great success and care because our talented staff, thoughtful design, and commitment to students. Students began the year in a couple of different models. Our kindergarten and first grade students started in person 5 days a week, all of them together. Our second through 12th grade started in a hybrid model. EP Online was also launched and became our largest elementary school pretty much overnight. Synchronous and connected experiences were designed so that we were ready to be able to pivot while maintaining connections and care. We've learned a lot and adapted a lot this year. We found a lot of new ways of doing things, and some of those strategies will be forever with us and embedded in our future work. This has been a time of challenge, but also an incredible time of growth for us across the district. Last summer, our student support services, operations teams, and health and safety teams jumped right into action and are honestly second to none. The designs and protocols they put in place have worked. We've been able to maintain a safe and healthy work and learning environment throughout this school year. And it's allowed us to have more students in school for more time than almost all of our counterparts. That did not happen by chance or luck. It truly has been about layered mitigation strategies. After preparing during the summer, we've implemented and continue to evolve those layered mitigation strategies to keep our students, staff safe and healthy. And to do that was a huge feat. Here's a few numbers of some of the things that happened. Over 10,000 student masks were handed out. We ensured that we had reusable masks for our staff. And so each staff has plenty of reusable masks that they have available to them as needed. We had over 12,000 face shields delivered. We had over 275 plexiglass barriers distributed. Our custodial teams and our workers put down over 4,000 social distancing marks around floors to be able to set us up. And we had over 600 social distancing signs displayed to be able to start training and teaching. We had additional mitigation layers in terms of cleaning. It's so important to maintain those spaces. And so you can just see some of the stats here around some of the things. I mean, it was amazing to watch as 60 electrostatic sprayers became into use where we can instantly clean a room and a space in a matter of minutes. Hand sanitizers and temperature scanners deployed. All kinds of things took place to make sure that we had safe and healthy environments. COVID testing is another layer that was added. Last fall, we were able to provide all of our staff with a COVID test when it was really still difficult to even get tested. We now offer bi-weekly testing on site to all of our staff as we protect ourselves and our community. I'd encourage everybody in the community to get tested. This is one of the ways that we're helping control that asymptomatic spread and keep our community healthy and safe as we're all interconnected in this. I began this presentation talking about partnership. I can't say a big enough thank you to our city and particularly to Chief Gerber for his partnership. He sat on our district incident command team and contributed his talents and knowledge and support to us as a school district throughout this year. We had the opportunity to partner with the city and Hennepin County. And because of this relationship, we've been able to be vaccinating our first responders that support and care for our Southwest Metro area community here since December 28th at Eden Prairie High School. It's just been an absolute honor to work together in that as we're all bound together as well. So let's talk EP Online for a moment. Although online learning is not new to us, we've made some really significant advancements and evolutions over this past year. EP Online was launched and became our largest elementary school almost overnight. In the past, we've offered supplemental courses, so this is not new to us, but we are now a full approved comprehensive online provider, K-12. And what I'm most proud of is that we are not just an average run-of-the-mill online provider. We are truly a model program that other districts are looking at. We're the only comprehensive program that offers that live synchronous learning every day for elementary students. That high quality learning and connection is because of the care of our staff and the care that they have to our students and commitment to high levels of learning for each student. Although this program was launched with great speed during the pandemic, it truly will be an enduring choice for families, not only here in Eden Prairie, but for students and families across the state who want to take advantage of an Eden Prairie education. Our students thrive academically through our whole child education. And this has been evident in our results and our outcomes. While the state took a year off of measurement, we are so committed to making sure that our students are learning that we continued on so that we could serve each of our students effectively. This is part of the care and commitment we have to learning. So even in the context of distance learning and shifts in instructional models and that intentional redesign, last spring, we went ahead and continued with our assessments. And we saw that 78.5% of our third grade students still demonstrated proficiency in our standardized assessments and local measures. So just outstanding work by our students, our staff, and our community. In spite of the challenges, our graduation rates continued to rise last year because of the commitment to staff to ensure that students were able to demonstrate high levels of learning and proficiency against benchmarks. And this was not just one group of students and one moment in time. This has been a journey that we've been on and our commitment to each student. And so we've seen amazing results over the last 4 years and impacts on our graduation rates across our student groups because of that commitment to each student and ensuring that they're prepared, truly prepared for whatever is next after high school. This trajectory is because of investments and commitment by our community. Because the community supported those small class sizes in our 2015 levy for our K-1 students, we've been able to have K-1 students in school 5 days a week for nearly the entire school year this year during the pandemic. In subsequent years, with the support of the board, we lowered class sizes in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. This has provided us with some of the lowest class sizes in the entire metro area and really prepares our students to take advantage of the amazing opportunities available in middle school and high school. An example of that is at the high school. It's just our tremendous course catalog. And I started doing this last year. We continue to expand and revise, but what's most exciting to me is it's done based on connections with students, their voices, and their interests. We're always listening and we're working to adapt to meet the needs of each of our students. And so you can see some of the new courses that are now available for 2021-22, this upcoming school year. And you can see some of those recently added courses as well. Many of them college level courses that our students have access to during their high school time. I'm going to have Mr. Johnson here roll a little video while I speak. And this video is of some of our construction work that is taking place over at CMS, thanks to the community support of the bond back in 2019. And it's amazing to see what that work is looking like here this year. Do you want to turn the sound off, and I'll just narrate here as we roll? There we go. So there we go. Thank you. During this unprecedented year of COVID, we've continued to march forward and been able to, so that we can provide unmatched opportunities for our students. We will keep moving forward during all this. So while construction has been taking place at the middle school, we've also been focused on the student experience that will take place. We've revised our schedule in pretty significant ways, and it's going to allow us to exponentially increase choice for our middle school students. We're designing to be able to take advantage of the amazing facilities that our students, staff, and community will be able to have access to in this new building. And we've been examining continuity across all of our grade levels and programming. So in this video, you're seeing images of some of our new classroom spaces, the new classroom wing where that's going up, our athletic complex, cafeteria space, and fine art space. But this really is going to be a lot more than just a building. It's going to be a space that connects. It's going to allow students to explore, and it's going to provide a hub for the community as well. We believe many of these spaces will be heavily used by the community outside of just the school hours. And we're really looking forward to providing tours as the space opens up this fall. Our 6th graders will join our 7th and 8th graders at CMS, and our preschool students will be joining their neighborhood schools next year as well. And so you're seeing the outdoor track space that will get laid down this year from this angle right now. We've got new gymnasium spaces that have gone up and look amazing here as they're coming together. You can see what that looks like as of December. I actually saw, I think the fine art space was up a few minutes ago, and they were actually starting to put the big metal beams onto the roof of that this morning as I pulled in this morning. And so there's the new fine art space that will have a full theater and then music classrooms and connecting through all the fine arts. There will also be a community space in that community will be able to check out and leverage as you think about potential meetings or connection points as well. And so this will be a great contribution to our community as we go along as well. So I mentioned just a moment ago that our neighborhood preschool is coming this year as well. And so registration for preschool actually opens here in March. I'd encourage all Eden Prairie families with young children to connect with community education and hear all about that. Our little eagles are amazing little members of our community, and they're the future of our legacy of excellence here in Eden Prairie. In going through Little Eagles, they'll be well prepared to take on their future as they enter Eden Prairie schools and take advantage of all the opportunities that are here as well. And those choices and opportunities are expanding. Through the Designing Pathways community vision around academic experience that was created in 2015 and 16, we are launching increased academic choice, increased career exploration, and increased career pathways that are authentic and connected to real world experience, audience, and purpose. We want every student to be prepared to take advantage of their gifts and their talents and their interests while never closing a door. And so I appreciate our partnership with the Chamber, and I'm really excited about the doors that this might open for us as well, for our students and our businesses, our nonprofits, and our community. We'll be offering community presentations around designing pathways here throughout the spring as we get ready to launch next year, that will go in depth. But this will be a K-12 experience. So our K-5 students will engage in opportunities to explore some of their interests and talents through some choice programming at the elementary level that's developmentally appropriate and connects really to their learning there. Our 6th through 8th graders will get to do a lot more exploratory work around some career fields and be able to see where their interests and passions might connect. And then in 9-12, we're preparing to really have purposeful, authentic engagement that could culminate for students in a capstone project where they're working authentically out in businesses in the community in ways that prepare them for whatever that next step is after high school for them. And so we're really excited about those increased choices that are coming for our students as they connect in authentic and real ways. So Rick probably will have a slide. We kind of joke about this. But all of this for really a great value as well. Fiscal stewardship is important to us here in the district. It's one of the things that the board values as well. I'm really appreciative of the support from our community. And when we talk about taxes, we're really able to provide this experience for our students at one of the lowest cost taxpayers of any of our neighbors. And so I just want to say thank you to our community and our taxpayers for your support. Our students should really make you proud. And this investment that you've made really helps build a stronger community and future here in Eden Prairie. This has been a year of change. It's been a year of creativity and invention and intention. Our mission to inspire each student every day is a guiding light for us as we focus on our design. And although it's been challenging, I really believe that we'll be better in the future, and that through care and partnership, our staff is really ready to take advantage of everything that we've learned for the benefit of our students. So thank you, Pat and Rick, for being great partners, and I will turn it over to Rick for the state of the city.
Thanks, Josh. You're right in terms of echoing what was said earlier. The city and the school and the chamber partnership is vital. Obviously, this year, just as much as any other year, if not more. You think about, I think you gave the examples of the vaccination. We also have, several other programs, some that had to be paused. I know we talked about a mayor's entrepreneurship program involving the city and the school and the chamber. That's another program I know we're going to get back to. So I appreciate the opportunity to dress up today, to be able to put a suit and tie on, which is not as common as it normally was in 2020. I still didn't shave though. I want to thank those people from the city also that are part of the webinar or will be watching later on. We have staff from our communications division, our community development department, economic development. We have Mayor Case, and we have 5 council members total: Mayor Case and Councilmember Freiberg, Councilmember Narayan, Councilmember Nelson, and our newest Councilmember Toomey, who just started out. And obviously, surprise, surprise, a state of the city this year is going to be COVID related. A lot of it had to do with COVID, and we all have our own experiences, personal work experiences. I'm going to share a little bit of the city experience, but then I'm going to get to what else is happening in the community. And really, I don't know if I'd say it's what happened in spite of COVID, but was happening anyway. But if you think back, and I think, Pat, you talked about this, some of these state of the city addresses that we had in person 10 months ago, I remember where I was in March as this was hitting. I was actually heading to pick up my daughter, who goes to University of Indiana. And we were going to Indianapolis, and we were going to the Big Ten basketball tournament at that time. And within the span of, I think it was 72 hours, We had all her things packed in a car, and we were driving back, and there was no basketball. Actually, I think they maybe played a couple first round games, but if you're a sports fan, that's also when the world of sports kind of were put on pause. And within 3 days, less than 3 days, from a city perspective, I was in a city emergency operations center that was activated, I think that Sunday, March 14th or 15th, I think it was, that was activated. And Josh talked about our fire chief and emergency management director, Scott Gerber, activated that. And we were in touch with the mayor and the city council and the city staff discussing, what we were going to do moving forward. And within a matter of 2 days, I think it was 2 days on that Tuesday, March 17th, that was probably the last normal. We haven't had a normal council meeting since. We've done a lot to continue the business of the city council. We had an update at that time. And what I think is amazing when I look at this, at that time, the fire chief was talking about how there were about 60 cases of COVID in the state of Minnesota. There may have been many more, obviously, out east at that time. But we were getting ready to shut down our state. And we did shut down our state for a while. But we were preparing what was going to be and has been thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases. And at that time, we were preparing, as Josh talked about from a school perspective too, how are we going to manage through this? And we did, and we still are to this day. I think about the police department and the fire department that changed much of their scheduling, how the fire department took on some of the medical calls so the police could respond to other calls, how we moved into coordinating PPE across the community, how we had an emergency response. I think it's fascinating when I think back to that period of time and sitting with the police chief, and who would have imagined that in March and April of last year, you'd be talking about 911 calls coming in related to 3 or 4 kids playing too close together on a basketball court. People gathering in close quarters outside and asking, what is the city going to do about that? Calls coming in that I think they noticed that there may have been 4 or 5 people inside a fitness center working out when it's supposed to be shut down. It's just an interesting, look back. But again, as I said, I think we were able to respond as needed. And a couple examples I want to give, at least from the chamber perspective, is, and Pat mentioned this too, with the chamber, that there were some mask drives, and we had thousands of masks that were dropped off at our fire station and then distributed throughout the community in apartment buildings. And so there was a lot of community work that was done. We have excellent nonprofit associations and different groups in addition to who we have with the city and the chamber to help out. So we made an emergency declaration in Eden Prairie to continue the business that we were doing. And then we wanted to reach out to our businesses and assist our businesses as well. On the left, in terms of the outdoor dining, that was more later in the summer with a declaration that came out from the city that we were going to waive a lot of our code and a lot of our zoning code and be as flexible as we can in terms of helping our businesses. We waived a lot of late fees with our utility bill, all late fees with our utility bills and our business licenses. And our building inspections division started providing more of a virtual service. Now, I was going to say earlier that I think there's a lot of things that all of us did that we probably aren't going to do again and don't want to do again to deal with this pandemic. But I think there are a lot of other things too that we did that maybe we can do again, that we improve, that we're efficient with. And maybe that building inspections piece is one where you could get an entirely virtual inspection where we don't need to ever visit your home. You can upload photos to the city and we can issue a permit. In terms of the business community, a lot of what we did was along with the chamber, communication and putting people in touch with the right programs. State and the county had some good programs to help our businesses. So to date, I've been given some statistics that show that this is Eden Prairie alone. we've assisted 168 companies, or the CARES money has assisted 168 companies with over $2 million in loans. And I think there's some that received more than one loan, but the average loan was around $12,000. One of the hardest hit areas for our community and for our city had to do with parks and recreation. It was, and I'll get to this in a few slides where it relates to our budget, but first I want to mention how it relates to the programming that we provide. If you look at this slide on the left, on the upper left, it's our Halloween at the Mall event that typically would draw hundreds of people to the mall, where police and fire and other parks and other community people are handing out candy. Well, we adjusted. We created a Boo drive-through event. You registered your car, you came through, and we were all masked, and we provided that candy. On the right, on the upper area there's your typical Starring Lake concert. The one that the kind of concert we're all used to. Well, obviously we had to adjust, and we were still able to have some events like the one below that's socially distant and outside. And obviously, I think that's something we're going to see into 2021. When you think about our community center, and again, we talk at City Hall, and I even do with friends and family about how the school managed, and all of our employees that have children in school as well. And just my heart goes out to those people that had to manage younger school age children. But we also had, many members of our community center in our community that weren't able to be a part of that facility. I mean, there's an example of a facility that closed in March, reopened in May, closed again in November, and reopened just recently. But in the meantime, providing a lot of on-demand online virtual classes is one way we've adjusted. And there's the finance slide, Josh. So just really quickly on the right, there's the city tax in 2020, which I think will be very much the same in 21, because we have a tax levy and a budget for 21 that's below most of our peers and is below or in the range of 3%. So we're looking at a very modest increase in our budget. But when you look at financially the impact on the city, we did lose close to $4 million in revenue, a lot of which was related to parks and recreation. But as many cities in the United States, and definitely in Minnesota, counties and cities received some CARES Act funding. And in a nutshell, we received just over $4.7 million of city funding, which equates to about $75 per capita. And that allowed us to do a lot of what Josh mentioned, not as much. We have a lot of city facilities, but we did have to expend some dollars for PPE as well, and a lot of costs related to disinfectant, and also filling in that lost revenue indirectly. But we were able to provide some funding to our businesses and nonprofits. Besides that funding I mentioned earlier, we were able to provide some funding to both the chamber and to the foundation, Eden Prairie Foundation. And when you think about finances, because I'm going to start moving ahead a little bit and talk about some of what's occurred that might not be COVID related, we still have seen an increase in our tax base and in development. I'm going to show you examples of that. And we've seen a continued decrease in our debt. And just to give a quick example on the slide on the right related to debt, we as a city are expected to have debt that's 15% at most of our general fund revenues. And we've not gone any higher than 9%. And we're kind of in that 4 and 5% range right now. So we feel really good about our spending and our debt. So one interesting thing about this COVID environment, which I'm sure many of you personally experienced yourself, was that there were many less of us on the road. In fact, there was a period of time in March and April and May where traffic was down 50 to 60% on metro area freeways, and actually has continued to be 20% down. One of the silver linings of that is when you're constructing or part of constructing the largest public works project in the history of the state of Minnesota. And there are a lot of detours and there are a lot of closed roads. Maybe not having a lot of traffic on the road helped, but my guess is many of you were still impacted by the Southwest Light Rail construction. Here are some pictures more to the north toward Minneapolis, but in this case, it's into Eden Prairie near the Minnetonka border. And as we continue toward what some call the end of the line at Southwest Station, and if you've been through there, you see the large bridge near Technology and Prairie Center. Construction continues to move along. There has been some recent news that the project may be delayed another 6 months in terms of its first rider coming in 2024 instead of 23. But I don't know what impact that's had on construction in Eden Prairie. We're one of those cities that had way more bridges and more infrastructure work than many other cities, and I know that they've been on schedule. We'll see what happens in terms of continuing forward. But 2020 was a huge year for construction, maybe the busiest, and it still will be in 21. And when you think about what I'll call the beginning of the line, not the end of the line at Southwest Station, the Elevate multifamily residential project had opened within the last year and a half, the 222 units of apartments, but we're also seeing some retail come in there. Brick and Bourbon Restaurant should be opening soon. You see Five Guys relocated from another location in the community, and Jen's Barber has opened as well. And continuing on with the development theme, while the construction of LRT was occurring, Hampton Inn was able to open up in that Technology Drive, Flying Cloud Drive area. Our friends at Southwest Transit were able to complete a major renovation, and part of that on Highway 62 and Eden Prairie Road area. And part of that was due to the that beginning of the line area and moving their offices to this location so we can make room for a multimodal station at Southwest Transit. And in terms of office and industrial development, I'm going to flip through a few slides of these. I think, Pat, you touched on Shields. I'm not going to talk about that again and some of the other business openings, but this is a mix of what's coming. And one of the big projects that might be coming is in the couple in the Golden Triangle area, one near where the Super Valley used to be, and then Blue Stem, West 70th, not far from 212, kind of a major mixed use concept there with some office and residential. And the city's also approved a 130,000 square foot industrial building a little bit further to the east on Valley View in the Golden Triangle. We've also seen some interest in another office industrial site where the Kabuki was in the Golden Triangle. And Tenant is a corporation, a maker of a major cleaning equipment out of Golden Valley that moved into Eden Prairie. Quite a few hundred jobs that came in to take over the former GE Fleet property off of 494. And there's not only a lot of development happening with office industrial, there's a lot of housing development. I think last year's State of the City, I talked about, and the mayor's talked about being a city of cranes. We've got cranes in a lot of locations. We've got multifamily housing projects in that Flying Cloud Drive, Prairie Center Drive area. And then we have what's known as Smith Village near our wonderful Smith Coffee. We have a senior housing project being constructed, 58 units of regular housing across from some townhomes. So there's just a lot of development activity that's occurring. And finally, retail. I'm going to hit on retail. A lot of the meetings that I go to, discussions have to do with, well, what's going in at Gander Mountain? What's going in at Sports Authority? What's happening? You know, we know what's happening with Sears. So we know now Sierra Trading Company has opened where Sports Authority was. And we know, and also Lake Wind's Grocery and a Chick-fil-A are coming in that same Presbyterian Holmes area that I talked about earlier. We're going to see Jersey Mike's going in where Caribou is at Southwest Station. We have another new pizza kitchen over by Kowalski's. We have an African restaurant over near Flying Cloud and Anderson Lakes Parkway. And we're also getting close to that Gander Mountain location being almost a food hall, I'll call it. There's a concept for an Asian food hall where there'd be a mix of restaurants at that location as well. So more to come on that. My last 2 or 3 slides, and then I'll wrap up, have to do with what would be some of the larger city council initiatives for the past year and the coming year. And obviously what state of the city right now wouldn't include a Zoom photo without the permission of the, the people in there. But there are 3 things that the council's really spent a lot of time talking about in the last year are housing, sustainability, and now race equity. When it comes to the housing piece, within the last 12 months, I think as I stood here maybe a year ago, the council had just begun to appoint a task force to look into housing issues. During that year period of time, they studied, they met, and they released a report that was accepted by the city council that will look into having more inclusionary affordable policies. When a developer builds in Eden Prairie, there's going to be some strings attached in terms of affordability, more life cycle housing, establishing a trust fund to finance some of these projects with some funding coming from the outside, and looking at some tenant protections. In terms of sustainability, we continue to spread solar throughout all of our city facilities. We're getting ready for our residents who live here to receive organics recycling collection. In the last year, we have opened a city yard waste site, and we continue to electrify our fleet as well. One of the major issues that came up in the last year had to do with the civil unrest throughout the country. And, you know, we like to say that in terms of Eden Prairie's perspective, I wouldn't say we were insulated from it, but we were able to avoid any instances of major concern with public safety. But there's a comment that came from our commission and our HRDC that in terms of race equity, you don't have to be bad to get better. You don't have to be in a poor position to improve. And so the idea with the race equity initiative, again, that the council tasked our Human Rights and Diversity Commission with, was to look into 6 different areas in our community as to how our residents experience our community from a race equity lens, through emergency response, city recruitment and hiring, how programs are assessed, and how the community experiences any issues. It's a community project that our HRDC is taking on. And a big part of it also has to do with who are our future leaders. So that's just beginning. And then it's really important to mention that many of those previous initiatives that I just talked about, much of what was related to COVID does involve wanting to communicate and connect our community. So we have tens of thousands of people that are receiving updates on a regular basis from our community. And just so you can know that there's a way to connect into the community. And finally, I want to say I'm proud to work for a city that has been named a top workplace, that our employees themselves state is a good place to work. And it's really important that we do the work of the community and the residents following the direction of the city council. And I think, and I don't know when, but there may be an announcement coming soon that we are also one of the top workplaces nationally as part of this program. So with that, I appreciate Pat, Josh, being able to be with you personally, and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Josh. Great job. As you can tell, we have a wonderful community, and we're always very pleased to have this day and this opportunity to present some of the great work that both the Chamber and the business community are doing on top of what the city and the school district are doing. We do have the chat feature available. If you do have some questions, please submit those. And we'll answer those as quickly as possible. if you have a question that you get to us after we've wrapped things up here today, we'll go ahead and get you an answer via email or an additional item. All right. Is that the one? That's the one I received.
So this follows the script entirely. We go for an hour and 10 minutes and the big question in the chat, where's the Chick-fil-A going to be? Absolutely. I'm with you. It's going to be part of that Presbyterian Homes development, we call it. It's going to be on Prairie Center Drive, close to Flying Cloud Drive, not far from the CVS that's there right now.
And of course, if you can't find it, once it opens, you'll have no problem finding it. Just follow the cars. What is the future of Eden Prairie Center? Shopping there has gone down. Yeah, I think, it's a great question. The one item I'll note is we know the signature stores are all committed and looking forward to being a part of Eden Prairie Center. As I mentioned in my comment, Shields is doing quite well and generating traffic. So I think time will tell as COVID and restrictions loosen, as the vaccinations get out there and people get back to normal, as we would say, that I think you'll see people out and about shopping. I also think in terms of businesses, retail, restaurants, those types of things, they've learned to shift models. Obviously, people doing takeout, ordering ahead and being able to pick up retail items out of their car and utilizing that service. So I think Eden Prairie Center, like I said, time will tell, but a lot happening there that is a good sign. And of course, I know the theater and some of those restaurants just reopened with the executive order coming to its latest conclusion. I know there's a question on the timeline of Southwest LRT. I think Rick mentioned, I don't know if you want to touch on it.
Yeah, just really quick. I think the current timeline had the first rider in 2023 because of some conditions found in Minneapolis that could be moved to 2024. I think it's important to note that there's a good year where the construction is complete and you're going to see empty cars moving down a rail line, almost a full year of that. So it may be another year or two of construction and the first rider late 23, 24. And Josh has a question.
All right, there's a question in the chat about when will students have access to vaccines? So I've got some great news. We actually just sent out a letter this morning to our staff. We started vaccinating staff that are working closely with students about a week ago. And we actually, because of our partnership with the city and having the vaccination center at the high school, we were able to get a few staff vaccinated there as well. But today we announced to staff that we have 531 vaccinations for teachers and some other staff who are working directly with students this week. And so that's really exciting news. That's really increased. And to this point, the Department of Health has told us that we could expect that to continue for our staff. So we're hopeful that we can have all of our staff vaccinated here over the course of the next month with both of their doses. In terms of students, we don't run the vaccination program, but we're in constant contact with the Department of Health. I'm sure that will run through their identification of tiers as they focus as a state on vaccinating those with the most risk to keep everything going and whatnot. So, I would look to future communication from the Department of Health and Governor's office as they work through that information. So I can't tell you exactly when students will have access, but it certainly appears like things are ramping up, at least in our access to be able to get our staff taken care of so we can keep schools open and healthy and safe.
Anything special planned for seniors with, again, some distance?
Yeah,
maybe some
absolutely.
celebration?
So for the class of 2021, I actually believe that there were announcements or cards that just went out regarding graduation. And so our families, if you haven't received that, you probably will be receiving that in the very near future. And so our high school staff have already been thinking and planning ahead. And of course, we want to make sure that we honor the accomplishments of that staff. And so I think we'll be able to do some really unique, fun things that that honor the work that's gone on and the experience those students have gone through.
All right. That appears to be it for our questions. We appreciate those. We do have the recording of this that we'll make available. So look for different links and communication coming out to be able to access this. If you have others, either at your place of business or residency that want to see this, obviously you'll be able to watch the video at their leisure. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank our sponsors again, Excel Energy and Wings Financial. Also, a special thank you to the school district for hosting us today and providing the technology for us to connect. And again, thank you to Josh and to Rick, not only for your presentation and sharing information today, but for your partnership in making Eden Prairie a great place. With that, we'll wrap things up. Enjoy your afternoon and stay healthy.